The funny thing with Loki is he wants to let everybody know of his great high status. And there's nothing like, status for comedy, really. It's anyone who thinks they're important.
It's like Ricky Gervais, it's all of the things, the opposite.
It's like, you're not important. So if you pump up the hubris, then humiliation can follow, and then it's hopefully
And then it's funny.
Hi, Lily.
Hi, Tom.
How are you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
No, we have already met, haven't we, at the UNICEF thing?
This is our first conversation.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. Why don't I start? Is that
Well,
okay?
now I want to know.
You want to start?
We were already talking about Essex Serpent. I got to watch it, and it's so brilliant, and you're so incredible in it.
Mrs. Seaborn. Cora. I
never thought a country vicar would be so well read.
Oh, what a shocking lack of imagination.
I kind of want to know about that first meeting with Claire Danes, like what that was like to film.
Well, she's playing Cora Seaborn. She's the heroine of the story. She's a widow on the other side of grieving the loss of her first husband. It was a very unhappy and abusive marriage, and she's now free, and she's into Charles Darwin and Charles Lyell, and she's out on the Essex coast where there's been an earthquake. And she's digging around for fossils and has this keen interest in the natural sciences. And she runs into this very faithful and God-fearing community. And I play the pastor, the reverend, somehow. But they have this very unusual meeting where they don't recognize each other and they don't know the other person. So it was an interesting meeting.
Watching it, the landscape, there's so much brutality, and it's so beautiful and atmospheric and dark, and it's Cleo Bernard who's incredible.
Yes.
She captures like that truthful, harsh reality.
Yeah,
and
she's amazing.
What was it that drew you to that role and that?
You know, I think it was partly Clio. I met her years ago, actually, at in the way that you do. You know, you probably I met her. We both had films at the London Film Festival in 2008, maybe 2009. I'm trying to remember when it was. I'd seen her film and I really liked her, and we had a really interesting conversation. And I followed her work and I read this, and it seemed so interesting. It was dealing with themes I thought were really resonant, dealing with uncertainty and anxiety. What happens to collective anxiety is it can start to sort of distort reality, and your imagination, if you don't have all the answers, rushes in to fill the void. And war at the time between science and faith as a way of trying to explain life and find meaning in it. And it seemed very romantic in a way, in quite an old-fashioned way, and yet really earthbound and really of the land.
Well, it's an allegory. The serpent is really the devil. There is no serpent in Essex.
Do you actively choose stuff like, you know, obviously there's so much that you just were drawn to and wanted to explore, but, you know, obviously it's very different from Loki. Is that a purposeful choice you make?
I mean, it was...
Couldn't be more different.
Yeah, it couldn't be more different. I read it towards the end of making Loki, and then we had like a week left, and there was the Thanksgiving weekend, everybody went home, and we had a week left, and I read it that weekend, and I found the argument really interesting.
I did, watching it, yeah.
This thing of how do we find meaning in our lives? Like, what do we put at the center of how we find meaning? And these characters are all struggling because it's a time of such enormous change. Because, yes, the age of reason is coming, and a world organized around religion, that's going to diminish. The idea of a mythical beast that's hiding and submerged in the water. I mean, it's very psychological. So it's kind of about the unknown. The Essex Serpent is the unknown, and we fear what we don't understand.
Wow.
And so every character has something, I think, that maybe psychologically is unknown, and they're trying to get to grips with that through the course of the story. And I loved making it. And we were out on the marshes in Essex.
It's like so brutal.
Yeah, and it was nice to be outside.
So beautiful, though. I think I find it so when you're somewhere real and you're really out there in the kind of real landscape, and even if you're freezing cold and like.
you put up with it, you know.
Yeah,
you kind of like,
it kind of helps.
Yeah, the sky is out there. That's where like I realized all these painters had gone out there, and there's something about the east-facing sunsets, and the skies are extraordinary. So if you happen to catch yourself, you're doing a scene outside and suddenly it gets to about 4:30, 5 o'clock and the sky just does something, you think, oh, this is why we came to Essex.
Yeah. Did you know Claire before, or was it just like...
I didn't. Yeah, and we had a really, really good time. We made it during the third, I'm trying to get this right, the third lockdown. We were in our little bubble, as I'm sure everybody's been in the bubble, and
which we kind of always do anyway, don't we? When you're filming, you kind of like, I find I don't see or like talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can get away with that at the moment because I don't have kids and the whole thing. But you sort of end up bubbling.
You just get in the bubble, yeah.
Yeah.
It was so muddy. I think one of our location scouts ended up losing his wellies.
His legs.
Losing his legs. Just never got out of the mud. Yeah. But it was so, I mean, it was so muddy. It was almost comical how muddy it was sometimes.
I see you, mother.
What are you doing?
I see you. Yeah, get the out of here, Stockerazzi piece of shit.
Do you want to get sued? Come on,
You should be suing him for invasion of privacy.
From the Essex marshes to sunny Southern California. How was Pam and Tommy? How did it come into your life?
It was really random. This was a really out of the blue phone call, and my impulse to do it was really immediate. I don't know how you are about knowing what's the right thing to do or not to do.
Sometimes you just know, right?
Yeah.
You just go, that really appeals. Yeah.
And other times it's this tortured, I actually kind of, well, I'll ask you that in a second. I find that the hardest thing is like knowing when to plunge and take the leap.
Yeah.
And with this, it was this impulse to really transform and do something completely different and take on something that I was so intimidated by and really didn't know if I could sort of take on another person's skin, and I really cared about, you know, the issues and the bigger picture of what we were exploring.
Of course, yeah.
You know, about privacy and the violation of the media and how dangerous they can be when they take on a narrative or decide to tear someone down or decide to sort of reduce someone. And so amazing people involved, like Craig Gillespie directed the first few, and Sebastian Stan, who plays Tommy Lee. And
when the project came to you, it was going to be Craig and it was going to be Sebastian Stan, and it was all a collected...
Actually, you know what? It was so early. It was like writer's room. I really don't know why they... Well, one of the writers said that the reason that they thought of me was because it was playing Pamela Anderson much earlier. I mean, she grew up in a very small town in Canada with like very few people on Vancouver Island, and I related to a sort of a sense of the newness of this whole thing, and then how quickly things can change and you can become more cynical or corrupted or whatever it may be. And
your work was extraordinary. I mean,
thanks,
just
Tom.
Unrecognizable in it. Certainly in comparison, the physical transformation and the vocal transformation, and it's sort of, you know, taking on a real person is, I know, it feels like such an enormous
because you've done
responsibility.
it too. It's terrifying, isn't it?
When you look at other people's careers, who do you look to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I would have to say Jane Fonda.
You want to honor and respect.
Right,
and
be a good custodian, look out and be respectful. I felt like if I came at it with heart and with like total sort of understanding and desire only to be honest and to take care of the story and what happened as much as possible, that was all I could really do. But it was, I don't know if I'd do it again anytime soon.
Right, yeah.
But when you played Hank Williams, right?
A long time ago.
Long time ago.
He died when he was 29. He's a link in a chain, really, of music. That,
Right.
People like Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen, and they're all like, we're only doing this because Hank was doing it. So I'm like,
I didn't
okay.
know that.
Good to know. But
it can fuel you, that sort of, I felt like that desire to do her justice and to really morph was so frightening that I never worked harder, you know.
Right, of course. We could tell. And I thought, because the show, I suppose it opens with their connectedness and their passion and their connection to each other. And there's a really interesting idea that I think the whole show explores, and particularly through your performance, which is the complexity of what it means to be a public person. And when a persona is almost created on your behalf,
Right.
and you don't have any possession over it, and that can then be manipulated and distorted. And the scene where Pamela's prepared that, is it episode 3? Pamela's prepared that big speech and for to do the next day, and she's gonna nail it, and you nail it as her nailing it, and then you turn up on set and the producers say, we thought it was stronger
Better wordless. Yeah.
They cut my monologue.
What?
Yes. They said it was stronger wordless. God,
Wait.
anyway, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It happens all the time. This is so good. Should
That
we eat?
was your big scene.
I know.
I thought that really showed there's this perceived potency that she has, but also vulnerability, and then the wrestling about coming back the next day saying, I think we should.
I think we're going to
should
do
shoot
it.
this.
And to go beyond people's perceptions and to that's not okay and that's not enough. It was really bad in that time with a lot of these women, their stories you're sort of revisiting of they did this show with Monica Lewinsky and how we collectively treated women in the past, but still today, these sort of double standards. I still feel that's difficult, it's still hard sometimes to go against what people assume of you, whether that even be in work or in the press and the perception that I don't know. It's hard to ignore it all sometimes and push through it all. And I don't know how you.
Yeah. Where did you begin with becoming Pamela Anderson in terms of the physical transformation? I'm sure you had amazing teams, hair, makeup, wardrobe.
Yeah, God, the best. You know
Yeah.
that you could never ever do your job without them. I mean, initially I started training because I just had pictures of Pamela everywhere around me, and I actually lost 20 pounds, which is crazy. But because I wanted to be athletic, I wanted to be so strong as opposed to just drop weight. And then I had these prosthetic boobs, forehead, all this. It took 4 hours every day. And during that time, I would just sort of sit. I had a montage of all her interviews from the 90s, and I would just start tuning in to her voice and her sort of almost learn it like a song, the pitch and the rhythm. She speaks really, really, really fast, and then I would her hair and her hands, and I just watched her so much, and stayed in her kind of the whole time.
Wow. How long was the shoot?
I think it was 4 months or 5
Goodness.
months. But
And you're still doing all the training while you're
yeah.
filming.
Wow. I didn't stay in character, but I didn't speak English for the entire 5 months, even at home.
Really?
I just thought if I slip up once, and now I do that awful thing where someone's talking American and I start talking.
You
and
start
it's
talking American.
it's so.
Yeah. No, but lots of actors do that, and it's easier, isn't it? It feels it just feels you almost like you've played an establishing chord at the beginning of the day, and you just want to stay in the chord.
Yes, exactly.
You don't want to be in some other tune,
Right. And I find
and be
it
caught
hard
out
to
asking for can I have a sandwich or something?
Yeah, I'm going to the loo. Oh no, the bathroom. No, the restroom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wow. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So did you think that people on the crew, did they ever get to know Lily James really, or were they just...
I don't think so, and nor with Sebastian Stan, who was Tommy, we really didn't get to know each other till we started doing press.
Wow.
At all. It was sort of it was kind of almost awkward. And also because we were just earlier talking about bubbles and COVID, when we shot that, it was the same thing. So, and the days were so long, 18 hours. And so I find that the Americans are worse for the long days than us. Us more respectable.
You mean this
Brits.
just going
Longer
long.
days.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I found that so hard. It was but I guess it was because of the prosthetic. How has
It's a
that
lot
been
for
with
you.
you as a little thing, and with to Loki of you don't have any prosthetic, but it was probably long days, but getting in the whole thing of being
Yeah, I
him
mean,
and
Loki's changed so much over the years for me. He's been it's
been
I
such a
love
long
playing him,
experience
huge
playing
journey.
him.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's amazing. I mean, I was cast when I was 29, I'm 41.
Credit to you for having let him emerge and grow and shift.
Well, and to everybody at Marvel for letting me do it, and the audience actually, who I'm sure if they stopped being interested would let me know. Initially, you know, had so many different iterations with Loki, and the costumes were so elaborate, and I was wearing a wig, and we were shooting in the summer in New Mexico and Cleveland. I was always trying to break out of the mask, let something honest come through.
Totally, I had that with Pamela all the time.
You build the character, you build the exterior, and then you have to express something through the mask in a way. I suppose that's what hair and makeup is. It's a mask of something. And by the time we got to the series of on Disney Plus, what's great about it was Loki's like stripped of all the things that are familiar. Immediately, he's literally stripped of his clothes and put in a jumpsuit and then other clothes, and his status is gone, and he's nowhere near Thor or Odin or Asgard, all these things. And I wanted to. One of my big things going, it was like, I'm going to grow my hair and I'm going to dye it. It's just going to be
Strip it all
as
away.
natural as it can be, so I can spend all my time investigating the interiority, you know, rather than worrying, just saying, I think everyone knows who the character is now, and also let's open him up and go deep and find new aspects of him and challenge the character to change and grow. And so it was really, I loved it. It was really fun.
And you are so, it's like amazing how funny. First of all, you're so funny. And then also it's like deeply vulnerable.
Yeah.
Which is, and so moving.
That's the cocktail with him.
Yeah.
That's the weird.
So impressive.
Well, it's a writing thing, and a massive tip. It's such an ancient character. You know, he's the god of mischief. So like, I remember looking it up ages ago in the dictionary, and it said inclination to playfulness. And I was like,
That's an actor.
that's an actor. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what you got to do is play. Like always make sure there's a strain of playfulness in there. The funny thing with Loki is he wants to let everybody know of his great high status, and there's nothing like, I mean, status for comedy really. It's anyone who thinks they're important.
It's like Ricky Gervais. It's all
exactly.
the opposite.
Exactly. It's like you're not important. So if you pump up the hubris, then humiliation can follow, and then it's hopefully
And then it's funny.
But you sort of play it with a straight bat, especially in the show, because you know he does this thing in Avengers Endgame, picks up the cube and disappears. He's essentially broken the rules of reality, which is he's done something he's not supposed to do. So he's arrested and apprehended by this organization, the TVA, who like exist outside of time. And they make sure that reality unfolds according to predetermined
So everything's
sequences.
predestined.
Yeah.
And
And Loki's the god of chaos, so he's like, it's order versus chaos, and immediately he's just constantly being humbled and brought down to size. And so there's this richness for everything in there, for drama, for comedy, for vulnerability. So it's a great conceit, and
even more enjoyable maybe from doing the movies, or all sort of
different.
longer.
Yeah,
I
longer.
like doing a TV show
Yeah.
because you get so much longer to be
Yeah.
in the character and to like let
More
it
time.
unfold.
More time.
The first director with Loki was with Ken Branagh.
Yes,
who
we
both
share this.
work
Yes,
with.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a shared
We kind of
thing.
share this like life-changing moment.
Yeah.
We both received a phone call from Kenneth Branagh, and it's changed everything.
Yeah. And I wondered how much he was a part of, because for me, when I did Cinderella with him, there was a huge journey of collaboration. And he was like, I want to know does she sleep with the blinds shut? Does she, what does she eat first thing in the morning? And I wondered if you'd,
He's amazing like
develop that
Yes.
with him.
Yeah, it's such a testament to his generosity as a director as well, that he just understands actors and understands that if you can find connection points that are internal, that may never be known about, everything you do will have a ring of authentic truth to it.
Yeah.
And so before the first film, back in 2009, Chris Hemsworth and Anthony Hopkins and Rene Russo and I would sit around a table and sort of delineate this little family drama and talk about, Thor and Loki's childhood and all these things that became baked into the relationships that maybe weren't expressed in the story, but you could feel between us all as actors, which is really, that's a real director.
Yeah, I was reading about this, which is so exciting, which is Loki is the first queer character, Marvel character. How do I say in the MCU universe?
Yeah.
And to get that right, because it's very important.
No, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I can't believe that's. I'm amazed if that's true. It may be that in the films and the film stories it might be true, but you know, back from my early days of researching the character in the ancient myths, the identity of Loki was fluid in every aspect, in gender, in sexuality. It's a very ancient part of the character. I thought about it; it hadn't emerged in the stories we've told, and I was really pleased and privileged actually that it came up in the series. It's a small step. It's not, it's not as far as, there's so much more to do. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has to reflect the world we live in. It was an honor to bring that up. It was really important to me. It was really important to Kate Herron and Michael Waldron, and I'm pleased that we could bring it into our story.
Yeah, and how incredible what an impact that can make on such a widely seen universe, which becomes people's religion, going back to Essex Serpent, but and for people to feel represented and to see themselves, it's it's just so important.
Yeah.